Okay, we are live.
Hey, it's Seth Godin. A couple quick announcements before we start, and I introduce our super special guest. Number one, they've scheduled a power blackout for where we are. So if we disappear, don't worry. It's simply electrons not flowing through wires. Number two, we were going to have a surprise for you. My friend Scott, he got stranded in Pakistan. He is halfway back across the globe. When he comes, we'll give you some heads up. But this is hardly a consolation prize. I am thrilled to be sitting here with my friend, my colleague, my mentor, my hero, Ishita Gupta. Hi, Ishita.
Hi, Seth. Surprise.
So much to share with you. Our topic today is talking about the linchpin in the modern organization. Organizations of scale, organizations of 50 to 5,000 people. Where do the linchpins live? I want to talk for a minute about the history that got us here and then introduce you to Ishita and what she's up to. If you've got a question, we would love to hear from you. Just go into the comments, type it, and we'll do our best to get to them. As always, we have Sam on the control panel. We've got Marie here from far away. So the whole crew is here at the office. Okay, so first, where to begin? Henry Ford. It's always a good idea to start with Henry Ford.
Yeah, good guy.
Henry Ford, he wasn't a good guy. Sorry. But Henry Ford invented the modern middle class in the following way. When workers in Detroit were used to making 50 cents a day, he paid them $5 a day. He gave them that 10x raise for some selfish reasons. One of them was he could afford to pay it, his competitors couldn't, which meant the best workers would come to him. Number two is if he could establish a standard of people getting paid well, those people would have money to buy cars.
Right.
And so it became this virtuous cycle. But the model was what industrialists wanted were compliant cogs. The assembly line is running, show up on time, stay for your whole shift, keep up with the assembly line. And this was true for 50 solid years, that most people at most companies, compliance is what mattered. But the shift, in like the time I've been writing my books, 20 years, the shift is you come out way ahead as an industrialist, as a capitalist, when you have special people doing special work, when you have attracted and encouraged linchpins to do their magic. And the reason I'm bringing this up is Ishita Gupta sat next to me every day for 6 months when we built the original Samba, which came years before the altMBA. It was almost 10 years ago.
Almost 10 years, yeah.
And there were 9 people. They came from all over the country, and we sat here in my office every day for 7 or 8 hours a day for 6 months straight. And what I got out of that was my life changed. What I got out of that was dear friends and colleagues like Ishita. And what I got out of that, and you got out of that, was a book called Linchpin. And ever since then, I've been trying to recreate that feeling. That's what we're doing in the altMBA. Ishita Gupta is the only person on earth who's been through both. When are you finishing altMBA 28?
I'm in altMBA right now. It's ending in, I think, a week.
Tell us, how's it been?
It's been fantastic so far. So altMBA, when you and I started 10 years ago, it was 6 months of like intensive learning and skill building. And now the altMBA is 1 month of that. So it's a pretty intense experience, but across the board in terms of who I'm with, in terms of what I'm learning, it's still, it's building on what I learned 10 years ago, but it's amplifying that times 10, times 100. So it's me confronting fear. It's talking to new people. It's getting new worldviews. It's figuring out the next step for how even I level up 10 years later, where I am right now, what's coming next. I'm still answering all of these questions. It's still bringing it up in a way that I didn't expect. It's pretty wild.
And as you can guess, I think pretty highly of Ishita. She is a linchpin, and I've somehow persuaded her to join the team. So this is our announcement. She's going to be heading up our L&D outreach. What's L&D?
L&D is learning and development, which I've recently sort of been brought on to bring altMBA to companies and corporations where people are we spend all of our time at work. We spend all of our time trying to do meaningful work, get fulfillment, and at times we're at places 8 hours a day. So altMBA and learning and development are two, I don't know if I can call them genres, but two really aligned places. And we're trying to figure out how to really build leaders, how to take what we're doing in the altMBA and make it a real part of the workplace every day. Because the world of work is changing. We know that. the riff
And so
on.
do they.
And so do they.
So who have we seen in the altMBA so far from the kinds of companies you're thinking about?
And we've seen Coca-Cola, we've seen Amazon, we've seen Nike, we've had different marketing and tech companies.
Salesforce.
HubSpot,
Chobani.
Cisco.
We got your yogurt covered.
Chobani. We got Sony Music. So many different industries are sending 2, 3, 10, 20 people to the altMBA to train.
We're hoping for 20. We haven't gotten to 20.
We're almost there. Who want to train people to think differently, to bounce ideas and be open to feedback and not be afraid of receiving it, and learn how to manage and learn how to be a part of a team. A lot of different companies.
And it's
That's
scary
just the
stuff
start.
because the traditional product that's brought to an L&D team is about compliance still.
Right.
75 years later, here's the manual, here's the test your people will take. They don't want to do it. It's going to take 3 hours. They're going to hate it. And when we're done, you can prove they went through it.
Right.
We don't do any of those things. So
No.
I made it hard for you. I'm sorry.
You know what? It's hard at the onset,
Right.
but what it does is it builds this sense of agency and empowerment within the person who takes it that, oh, I don't need to wait for my boss to tell me to do something. I don't have to color inside the lines and have that be rewarded. Even though right now it might be rewarded, that's not the culture that we want to go to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, Friday, March 1st, is the early decision deadline for the next session of altMBA. So if you're thinking about it, we'd love to hear from you. altMBA.com to apply. The thing that's fascinating to me is lots of companies have a reimbursement strategy. Lots of companies, policy. Lots of companies will say to their people, if you take a course like the altMBA, we'll pay for it.
Right.
And tons of our students don't ask.
Yeah.
They don't ask their boss. And I think the reason is there is this fear that if you say to your boss, I'm doing this thing to level up, the boss is going to say, oh, who do you think you are? Why are you getting all uppity here, right? But in practice, this is exactly what the boss wants. And if it's not what the boss wants, you need a new boss.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, we're spending too much time at work to spend it all being compliant. Let's go to some questions, but finish your thoughts.
Yeah, well, the thought that I had, and I've been talking to people who are training their leaders. Bosses want people who have vision. Bosses want people who have agency. They want people who take initiative and don't wait. And this is exactly the spirit of what altMBA helps you create. That might be scary at first, but as soon as you start to cross that fear chasm, oh my God, does it open up? And you're a different person.
Exactly.
I am.
Love it. Sam, we got anything?
Questions?
Yes. All right. So Brooke wants to know, how do you suggest pitching your bosses?
So it's scary because you might not have a boss like me or a boss like Ishita, and you're worried that when you show up, the boss is going to say, well, are you going to be able to get your work done? And what's this going to do to X, Y, or Z? For me, and one of the things that we actually teach inside altMBA is this idea that you need to gain enrollment before you talk about the tactics. So the best thing to do if you want to get someone to get in your car on a trip to Cleveland is find out if they want to go to Cleveland at all. And once they announce they're going to Cleveland, now the question is just, should we fly or should we drive, right? But first, we got to decide Cleveland is where we want to go.
Right.
So the conversation to have with your boss is not, hey, I got into the altMBA. It's, do you think the company would benefit if I learned to do things like make better decisions, learn to see what's really in front of me, lead, etc. If I'm willing to do that on my own time, is that something that you encourage? The boss could say, no, we're too busy with the quarterly numbers. Great, you can drop it right there. But if she says, yeah, that's exactly what I'm hoping for, you can then say something like, in fact, I found this thing, and we wrote a letter just for you. Where's the letter? Do we remember, guys, where we put it? It's on the altMBA site. There's a sample letter that you can use, copy and paste, edit it on yourself. We'll put it in the comments, the link to it.
Yeah.
So mostly, it's not that hard except for the scary part.
Yeah. And, there's a difference between enrolling someone and convincing them. So a lot of times we come in and we have this thing that we want to do and we want to convince. I like that you say, okay, if it's not on their radar, drop it. But there's nothing that says that you can't keep pushing and figuring out and seeing what you want to do and how you want to level up and keep bringing it up with different value adds each time. And you keep driving that train.
Particularly since you're doing it on your own time. Most of our students don't quit their job. Most of our students spend the month. They don't stop using
Right.
Facebook. They stop watching TV, and they get the work done.
And
so
they have
don't
families.
even notice.
They have families. They have kids. They have extracurriculars. I'm in it right now. We're here.
And here you
I
are
have
at
the
work. I
side
didn't even
hustle.
notice.
Here we go.
Exactly.
It's on work time. Everybody can do it. Excuse me. You can do it if you have the lean that you want to do it for a specific reason and you're here to level up. It's just that simple. It's just a choice. You can 100% do it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, this question is from Luca. Can you tell us about the types of projects you and your peers are working on during the workshop?
Yeah.
Well, so there are 13 projects inside altMBA, and we have been rigorous for 3 years and not saying, here's the list. And the reason is, when I was going to school in Boston, WBCN used to do live reports from concerts at the Boston Garden.
Cool.
They didn't play the music. They just had the DJ say, I'm here, and Springsteen just played Poured in the USA. Knowing what the song was didn't match being at the concert. They're two totally different things. So we could tell you what the projects are, and it wouldn't matter. Because
would
it's
not.
not about knowing what the projects are. It's about being there.
Yes.
And so that's why we don't publish our curriculum in our list. Because you'd look at it and go, oh yeah, I know how to do those things. But you don't, because you haven't done those things in this space surrounded by possibility.
I love what you just said. That's exactly, it's 100% true. I'm in it right now. Even if I were to list out the sales, the marketing, the worldview things that we're learning, it has no bearing on you actually being there with a group of people who are taking risks, leveling up, being so generous, getting feedback. It's totally immersive. It's pretty much magic. I don't even know how to say it without sounding cheesy.
No, it is.
But it is.
I've been into magic my whole life, so this is magic. What do you got, Sam? We got time for a couple?
Yes, we'll do 2 or 3 more.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, this one's from Tiffany. Any tips on learning how to do corporate sales?
Come tell me. Hello.
What are some of the books we've been talking about?
Anthony, what's his name?
Iannarino.
Reno. He has written, I think it's called, humbly enough, the best sales guide ever written.
But his new one's called Eat Their Lunch, which is also really good.
Yeah, and he's an amazing salesperson. I just actually read his book. Some of the books from
Neil's
altMBA, Neil, Spin Selling, right? Neil
yeah.
Rackham, Spin Selling, amazing sales
Terrible
book.
title.
Awful
it's
title.
not about spin at
but
all.
the book is choice. The book is great.
And don't forget Zig.
Zig Ziglar, the godfather of sales.
Because here's the deal. In corporate selling, there's a giant difference. Only one, which is the people who are buying aren't spending their own money.
Right.
Which means they're not having a discussion with themselves about how will this money exchange make me feel. They're having a discussion about one question. And the question is, what will I tell my boss? And if you can give them a good story to tell their boss, then you can make the sale. If you can't, then the story they will tell their boss is, I bought the cheapest one. Those are the only two choices. I bought the cheapest one, or this is the reason I didn't buy the cheapest one. And that's your job, is to have the empathy to understand that the person you seek to serve doesn't want what you want, doesn't know what you know, doesn't believe what you believe, and that's okay.
And it's almost similar to the question of how do I ask my boss? It's all about worldview. That's what I'm learning is, you have to be able to match and, to your point, be empathetic to who you're selling to. So I can't go in somewhere and say, well, this is the best training that creates the best leaders that can solve all the challenges and be amazing with teams, even though I know that's exactly what our training does. I have to massage it into what feels like the right worldview so that they get it. No one's trying to convince, no one's trying to sell. You're just trying to get on the same page about value.
Enrollment. Last one, Sam.
Last one. This one's from May. I'm thinking of transitioning from finance to something creative, but it feels pretty unlikely. Would the altMBA be helpful?
100,000%.
I hope that you don't start doing creative finance because you could go to jail for that. But here's the deal. There are plenty of people in finance who are creative about something other than the spreadsheet. And what I'm going to encourage you is two things. First, I'll mirror what Ishita Gupta just said, which is you will find what you are looking for if you look hard enough, inside the altMBA or not. But number two is you can start being creative right now. from everything from how you organize a lunch meeting to how you bring the ideas around your work to the people that you work with. You don't need a permit. You don't need a license. And one of the things we cover so much, and is the arc of my work, is that when you act as if, doors open. And so the altMBA is just this process of acting as if in an organized fashion. And I just want to wrap this up, first of all, by thanking you, thanking the electricity gods for keeping this going all the way to the end.
Know.
Thank you, Sam and Marie, for making the trip. But Ishita Gupta, every time I talk to you, I just feel, I'm just so thrilled and lucky to know you. The day you walked into this office 10 years ago was a watershed day for me. And I'm so glad you're part of this team.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Thanks, guys, for checking it out. Check out altMBA.com/, what is it?
Apply.
Apply.
Go make a ruckus.